It's 3 o'clock in the morning. The whole house is silent. Not a single sound anywhere. The street outside is empty. The sky is still dark. And everyone around you, everyone in your neighborhood, everyone in your building, is fast asleep. But you're not. You're lying there, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Your body isn't in pain. Your heart isn't racing. There's no noise, no dream, no alarm. Nothing woke you up in any obvious way. You just woke up. And now, in that thick, heavy silence of 3 in the morning, a familiar question begins to form in your mind. Why does this keep happening to me? Maybe you've asked that question once. Maybe you've asked it 100 times. Maybe you've started to worry, quietly, privately, that something is wrong with you. That your body is changing in ways you don't understand. That your sleep will never be the same again. If that's where you are right now, then this video is for you. Because here's what I want you to know before we go any further. You are not alone in this. Not even close. Millions of older adults all around the world lie awake at this exact hour, on this exact kind of night, asking this exact same question. Waking up between 2 and 4 in the morning is one of the most common sleep experiences in people over 50, and yet almost no one talks about it openly. And that silence can make it feel so much more frightening than it actually is. So today, we're going to break that silence. In this video, we're going to explore 5 powerful, deeply human reasons why older adults tend to wake up around 3 a.m., and what those early morning wake-ups may actually be trying to tell you. Some of these reasons are rooted in biology. Some are rooted in your daily habits. Some go even deeper than that, into the emotional and psychological rhythms of a life fully lived. These aren't surface-level tips. This isn't a list of things you've already heard 100 times. This is real. This is honest. And by the time we reach the end, you won't just understand your sleep better. You'll understand yourself better. Stay with us all the way through. Let's get into it. Number 1. Reduced melatonin production. Picture a quiet guardian who watches over your sleep every single night. As long as he's strong and steady, you sleep deeply. You don't stir at small sounds. You don't notice the light shifting outside the window. You don't feel the hours passing. You just sleep, long, full, uninterrupted stretches of real rest. But the moment the guardian begins to weaken, the moment his presence starts to fade, your sleep begins to crack open from the inside. That guardian has a name. It's called melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone your brain produces naturally every single night. It's made by a tiny gland deep inside your skull called the pineal gland, and its job is simple but essential. As darkness falls each evening, your pineal gland picks up that signal and begins releasing melatonin into your bloodstream. And when that happens, your body gets the message. The sun is down. The world is quiet. It is time to rest. When you were younger, your body was generous with this hormone. It produced it reliably, in steady waves, night after night. And that's why sleep felt so different back then. Easier to fall into, easier to stay in, deeper and more restorative than it may feel today. But something changes as we age. After your mid-40s, and even more noticeably after 60, the pineal gland begins to slow down. It produces less melatonin than it once did. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, quietly, almost without you noticing, until one day you realize that you keep waking up in the middle of the night and you genuinely cannot figure out why. Here's what's actually happening in those early morning hours. In the first part of the night, your melatonin levels are still high enough to hold you in sleep. But by 2 or 3 in the morning, those levels have dropped, sometimes low enough that your brain begins to drift back toward wakefulness. Not because something is wrong. Not because you did anything incorrectly. Simply because your body doesn't have enough of that hormone left to keep you anchored in rest. And there's something else that makes this even harder as we get older. Your body becomes more sensitive to environmental triggers. When you were young, a little light under the door or the faint glow of a street lamp outside your window barely registered. Your melatonin production was strong enough to push through those small interruptions. But as you age, Even those tiny sources of light can suppress melatonin further. A blinking clock on your nightstand. The glow from a television left on in another room. The thin strip of light beneath your bedroom door. Things that never used to bother you can now quietly disrupt the very chemistry that keeps you asleep. Let me tell you about Harold. He's 72, and for most of his life he considered himself a good sleeper. He could fall asleep quickly, sleep through almost anything, and wake up feeling genuinely rested. But in the last 2 years, something changed. Almost every night, right around 3:15 in the morning, his eyes open. No pain. No bad dream. No sound from outside. Just awake. Completely and fully awake, as though his body has decided the night is over. For a long time, Harold blamed himself. He thought he must be doing something wrong. Eating too late. Worrying too much. Not exercising enough. He tried everything he could think of, and nothing seemed to help. And every night that he lay there in the dark, the frustration built a little more. Then someone explained to him what was actually happening, that this wasn't a failure on his part, but a natural chemical shift that comes with age. That his melatonin production had simply declined, the way it does for almost everyone as the decades pass. That understanding changed everything for Harold. Not because it fixed his sleep overnight, but because it took the blame away. He stopped fighting his body and started working with it instead. He made his bedroom darker. He put the blinking clock in a drawer. He stopped looking at his phone in the hour before bed. He started taking a short walk in the early evening to reinforce his natural circadian rhythm, helping his body remember that night is night and day is day. The changes were small, but the shift in how he felt about his sleep was enormous. And that's the real power of understanding. When you stop seeing your 3 a.m. wake-ups as something wrong with you, and start seeing them as a natural response to a very real biological change, everything feels different. The frustration eases. The self-blame lifts. And in that calmer, more compassionate space, you can actually start making choices that help. Number 2. Your internal clock has shifted forward. Have you noticed that you get sleepy earlier in the evening than you used to? Maybe you find yourself nodding off during a movie at 8 o'clock, when you used to stay up comfortably past midnight. Maybe you wake up before the sun rises, feeling surprisingly alert, even on days when you went to bed early the night before. Maybe the whole rhythm of your sleep feels like it's been quietly picked up and moved a few hours forward, without anyone asking your permission. If that sounds familiar, there's a name for what's happening to you. It's called advanced sleep phase, and it's one of the most common and least talked about sleep changes that comes with aging. Here's how it works. Inside your brain, there is a biological clock, a small cluster of cells that tracks the rhythm of light and dark, day and night. Scientists call it the circadian rhythm. It's the reason you feel tired at night, alert in the morning, and hungry around the same times each day. It's a deeply wired, deeply ancient system, and for most of your life, it probably ran on a schedule that felt natural and reliable to you. But as we age, that internal clock tends to drift forward. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly over years. What this means in practical terms is that your body starts sending you time to sleep signals earlier and earlier in the evening. And because you fall asleep earlier, your body finishes its full sleep cycle earlier, often right around 3 or 4 in the morning. So when you wake up at 3 a.m. feeling strangely alert, as though the night is over and the day should begin, you're not imagining things. For your body, in a very real biological sense, the night is over. Your sleep cycle ran its course. Your body is simply doing what it was designed to do, just on a schedule that has shifted forward from where it used to be. But there's more to this than just biology. Think about what changes in life as we get older. The structure that used to organize our days, the commute, the work meetings, the school pickups, the social obligations, the evening activities, begins to loosen. Retirement arrives. The house gets quieter. And with that beautiful, well-earned quietness comes something unexpected. Fewer external signals to anchor your body clock in place. When you were working, your internal clock had constant reinforcement. Early alarms, the pressure of having to be somewhere, the social rhythm of being around other people at certain hours. Those external cues acted like daily calibrations, keeping your clock steady and in sync. But when those cues disappear, when the days become open and unstructured, your clock begins to follow its own instincts. And those instincts, for an aging brain, tend to drift earlier and earlier. Think of someone like Charles. He's 68, retired, a former engineer who spent decades living by a precise schedule. Since retiring, his evenings have become wonderfully relaxed. He has dinner around 5:30, watches the evening news, and finds himself in bed by 9 most nights without even meaning to. By 3 in the morning, his body has had its full sleep and is ready to begin the day. For months, Charles thought he had insomnia. He lay awake in the dark, frustrated, convinced something was medically wrong. When he learned about advanced sleep phase, something clicked. His sleep wasn't broken. His body wasn't failing. It was simply running on a different schedule now, one that had shifted forward with age and been further reinforced by his quieter, more unstructured days. Charles began making gentle adjustments. He started having a longer phone call with his daughter in the evenings, which kept him mentally engaged a little later. He read under bright light for an hour before bed, giving his brain a later signal to wind down. And slowly, over several weeks, his natural sleep window shifted. He started falling asleep closer to 10:30 and waking up closer to 5 in the morning. A schedule that felt far more in harmony with the life he actually wanted to live. If you're still watching and finding this helpful, drop the number 2 in the comments below so I know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Your support is what keeps this channel going. Number 3. Physical discomfort and health-related interruptions. Sometimes the body wakes you up not with a shout, but with a whisper. A quiet ache in your hip. A subtle burn in your chest. A sudden, pressing need to use the bathroom. A muscle that's been still too long and is now demanding that you shift position. These aren't dramatic emergencies. They're small, physical nudges, almost polite in their insistence. But at 3 in the morning, in a dark and silent room, even the quietest nudge is enough to bring you fully awake. And as we get older, we become more likely to experience exactly these kinds of quiet physical interruptions, for a very simple reason. Our bodies change. Systems that once ran in the background without any effort or attention begin to ask for more. Joints that were flexible become stiffer. Digestion that was effortless becomes more sensitive. A bladder that once waited patiently through the night now makes its presence known. Joint pain and arthritis are among the most frequent culprits. When you first lie down at night, the discomfort may be mild enough that sleep still comes easily. But after several hours of stillness in the same position, the joints, particularly the hips, knees, and lower back, can stiffen and ache enough to wake you. The pain wasn't loud enough to stop you from falling asleep. But by 3 a.m., after hours without movement, it has become impossible to ignore. Acid reflux is another common disruptor, especially for people who eat dinner later in the evening or who lie down too soon after a meal. Stomach acid that travels upward during the night creates a burning, uncomfortable sensation that can pull you out of even deep sleep, often in the early morning hours when the body is naturally settling into lighter stages of rest. The need to urinate is perhaps the most universally recognized reason older adults wake during the night. As the bladder loses some of its elasticity and capacity with age, the urge to go comes faster and more urgently than it did in younger years. And what makes this particularly disruptive is what happens after. Once you get up, turn on a light, and move your body, you have shifted from a lighter stage of sleep into something much closer to full wakefulness. And getting back to sleep from that state can be genuinely difficult. Then there are medications. Many older adults take daily medications for blood pressure, heart health, pain management, or other chronic conditions, and the side effects of those medications can quietly and significantly affect sleep. Increased urination, changes in body temperature, heightened sensitivity to sound or light, vivid dreams, early morning alertness. These effects don't always come with obvious warning labels, and many people never connect their medication to their disrupted sleep until someone specifically points it out. Eleanor is 76. In the past year, her wake-ups have become consistent and predictable. Every single night, right around 3:30, her eyes open. She gets up, uses the bathroom, and then spends the next 2 hours lying in the dark, unable to fall back asleep. For months, she accepted it as simply part of getting older. Then she mentioned it to her doctor, almost as an aside at the end of an appointment about something else entirely. Her doctor caught something she hadn't. One of Eleanor's medications was affecting her fluid balance in a way that was increasing her nighttime bathroom trips. A small adjustment in the timing of her dosage, combined with reducing her fluid intake in the 2 hours before bed, made a measurable difference within weeks. Eleanor still wakes up occasionally, but the consistent, frustrating 3:30 alarm that her bladder used to set has quieted considerably. The lesson is this: physical wake-ups are not signs that your body is failing. They are signs that your body is communicating. It is sending signals. And those signals, when listened to rather than ignored or dismissed, can lead you toward better care, smarter conversations with your doctor, and real improvements in the quality of your rest. Your body is not your enemy in this. It never has been. Number 4. Lifestyle habits that are quietly reshaping your sleep rhythm. Of all 5 reasons we're discussing today, this one might be the most surprising, because it's the one that's most within your control. The way you spend your days shapes the way you sleep your nights. That's not a new idea. But what most people don't realize is just how powerfully the small, quiet shifts in daily routine that come with aging can accumulate, until one day the whole rhythm of your sleep has changed, and it's not obvious why. Let's paint a picture that might feel familiar. You're retired. You're not running to meet a schedule anymore. Your days are peaceful, which is wonderful. You eat dinner around 5 or 5:30 in the evening, nice and early, which feels healthy. By 7 or 8, you're relaxing on the couch, watching television or just resting quietly. And by 9 o'clock, sometimes even before, you find yourself genuinely sleepy. So you go to bed. You fall asleep quickly. And then 6 hours later, right around 3 in the morning, your eyes open and sleep is gone. On the surface, this looks like a sleep problem. But look more carefully and you'll see something else entirely. A schedule that has quietly drifted several hours earlier than it used to be. A sleep window that starts and ends sooner than your lifestyle actually requires. And once you see that, the 3 a.m. wake-up suddenly makes complete sense. But it goes deeper than just timing. Think about what happens to the body's internal rhythm when the stimulation in your day decreases. When you're no longer commuting, attending meetings, running errands, or navigating complex social situations, your brain receives fewer of the signals that used to tell it clearly when the day was beginning and when it was ending. Without those signals, the internal clock begins to drift, often forward and earlier. Evening light matters more than most people realize. Bright light in the evening tells your brain that the day is still ongoing, that it's not yet time to begin winding down. But if your evenings are spent in dim lighting, or sitting quietly in a low-stimulation environment, your brain may start the wind-down process hours earlier than it needs to. Food timing matters too. Eating dinner very early, say at 5 p.m., means that by 3 in the morning, it's been 10 hours since your last meal. For some people, blood sugar can dip low enough overnight to quietly trigger the body's stress response, which promotes wakefulness. It doesn't feel like hunger. It doesn't feel like anxiety. It just feels like being awake, suddenly, unexpectedly, in the middle of the night. Caffeine is another factor that deserves more credit than it typically gets. As we age, the body metabolizes caffeine more slowly. A cup of tea at 2 in the afternoon, which felt completely harmless for decades, may now be lingering in your system well into the night, keeping your sleep lighter and more fragile than it needs to be. Walter is 74. He spent 40 years working in manufacturing, long hours, a rigid schedule, no room for flexibility. Since retiring 3 years ago, his life has become beautifully open. He eats early, rests often, and has nowhere particular to be. But he started waking up every morning at 3 a.m., fully alert, unable to go back to sleep. He wasn't anxious. He wasn't in pain. He was simply waking up, and he couldn't understand why. When Walter looked honestly at his daily routine, the pattern became clear. Dinner at 5. Couch by 6:30. Asleep in his recliner by 8. Bed by 8:30. 6 hours later, 3 a.m., his body was done sleeping. Walter made 3 small changes. He started going for a 30-minute walk in the late afternoon. He moved dinner to 6:30 instead of 5. And he started reading under a bright lamp in the evening, rather than sitting in dim light in front of the television. Within a few weeks, he was falling asleep closer to 10:30 and waking up around 5 in the morning. A shift that completely changed how he felt about his nights. What Walter discovered is what I want you to take from this. Your daily habits are not separate from your sleep. They are your sleep. Every meal, every light source, every hour spent resting on the couch, all of it is quietly shaping the rhythm your body will follow when night comes. And the beautiful thing about that is this. It means you have more power over your sleep than you might have realized. You don't need a prescription for this. You just need awareness and a willingness to make a few small, thoughtful changes. If you're still with us and finding this valuable, leave the number 4 in the comments below. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the most generous thing we can do for someone we love is hand them information that helps them sleep better. Number 5. Emotional and psychological restlessness. This is the deepest reason of all. And it may be the one that resonates most. For much of your life, you were busy. There was always something demanding your attention. Children to raise, a career to manage, a household to run, relationships to maintain, problems to solve. The days were full. The noise of living kept everything moving forward. And in that fullness, in that constant forward motion, there was something that got quietly left behind. Not forgotten, exactly, but set aside. Stored carefully in some interior room of the self, waiting for a time when there would be space to look at it. That time, it turns out, is 3 in the morning. When the house is still. When the rest of the world is asleep. When the distractions of the day have finally gone quiet. That's when the mind turns inward, and all the things that were set aside begin, slowly, to surface. Old memories. Faces you haven't thought about in years. Conversations that never quite finished. Regrets that softened with time but never fully disappeared. Moments of love, of loss, of joy, of grief. All of them waiting patiently, and choosing the quietest hour of the night to make themselves known. This is different from the anxiety a young person might feel lying awake with a racing heart. This is quieter. More reflective. It feels less like panic and more like weight. Or longing. Or a gentle but persistent sense that something important is asking for your attention, even if you can't quite name what it is. It's also worth speaking honestly about loneliness. Because loneliness in older adulthood is far more common than we like to admit. Social circles shrink over time. Friends move away or pass on. Children grow into their own full lives. The rhythms of daily connection that once felt so natural can become less frequent, less reliable. During the day, there are ways to fill that space. But at 3 in the morning, there is no filling. There is only the quiet. And in that quiet, the ache of wanting connection, of missing someone or several someones, can feel very present and very real. Gloria is 80. During the day, she keeps herself beautifully occupied, tending her garden, cooking, calling her grandchildren, watching her favorite programs. She is warm and cheerful and full of life. But at 3 in the morning, she wakes. And in the silence of her bedroom, her thoughts go to her late husband. To small, ordinary moments she didn't know she was memorizing at the time. The way he laughed, the weight of his hand on her shoulder, the specific sound of his key in the door after a long day. For a long time, Gloria thought her waking was about sleep. She tried different pillows. She adjusted her diet. She read books on sleep hygiene. And slowly she came to understand that the waking wasn't really about sleep at all. It was about grief. And memory. And love that had nowhere new to go. So she found ways to give it somewhere to go. She started keeping a small journal on her nightstand. Nothing formal, nothing she planned to show anyone. Just a place to write down what was on her mind when she woke at 3. A few sentences. Sometimes just a name. Whatever came. She also began ending her evenings differently, listening to music she and her husband used to love together, or writing a short note to an old friend she hadn't spoken to in too long. Small rituals of connection that gave her heart something to do before bed, so that it carried a little less urgency into the middle of the night. The waking didn't stop completely, but it changed character. It became less like something happening to her, and more like something she was meeting. With openness. With a kind of quiet, earned grace. I want to say something directly to you now. If you wake up at 3 in the morning and your mind goes to people you've lost, or choices you've made, or questions you've carried for years, that is not a malfunction. That is not something to be medicated away or distracted from at all costs. That is the depth of a life. The weight of having actually lived, and loved, and lost, and kept going. And sometimes the most healing thing you can do in those early hours is not to fight your way back to sleep, but to sit with what's there. To let yourself feel it. To offer yourself the same gentleness you would offer anyone else you love who is having a hard night. You have earned that gentleness. Especially from yourself. So let's bring it all together. We've explored 5 reasons why older adults tend to wake up around 3 a.m. declining melatonin. A shifted internal clock. Physical discomfort and health-related interruptions. Lifestyle habits that have quietly drifted. And the deep emotional and psychological restlessness that can surface in the still hours of the night. Not one of these 5 reasons means something is wrong with you. Not one of them points to failure. Not of your body, not of your mind, not of your character. Every single one of them is evidence of a living, breathing, feeling human being who is still responding, still adapting, still doing their very best, as they move through the natural and inevitable changes that come with a long life. Your 3 a.m. wake-ups are not punishment. They are not random. They are messages. And now that you have some understanding of what those messages might mean, you are better equipped to respond to them. Not with frustration. Not with fear. But with knowledge and with care, and with the kind of patient compassion that you have perhaps been a little slow to offer yourself. You deserve good sleep. You deserve restful nights. And with small, thoughtful, informed changes in your environment, your routine, your habits, and your relationship with your own inner life, those nights are genuinely within reach. We would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us, which of these 5 reasons felt most true for you? Which one did you recognize in yourself? Your words matter here, and we read every single one. If this video helped you, please give it a like. Share it with someone you love who might need to hear this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hit the bell so you never miss what we put out. Thank you sincerely for spending this time with us today. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. And we'll see you in the next video.